Hey everyone, welcome to my home, welcome to my channel, A Ginger Can. My name is Brian, and today we're going to tackle the irrigation system again. Now, nothing's wrong. If you watched my last video, I replaced 4 of the valves and everything's fine. However, as I was out there fighting with the system and fighting with the wiring especially, it was really annoying. It was held together with electrical tape, which outside in the heat creates a really gummy mess and it just gets everywhere. And they used indoor wire nuts outside. Now this is a low voltage system, and I'll prove that, and I'll take a multimeter reading here. And everything is pretty well separated, and it was wrapped in electrical tape. So it was okay, but it's not right, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is fairly inexpensively, I'm going to put it into an enclosure. Now this enclosure doesn't have a rubber gasket, and since I'm upgrading from indoor wire nuts, it's not that big of a deal. This will provide a lot more water resistance than what was out there, and I'm going to end up bolting this to my house with some 1/4-inch Tapcon concrete screws. This enclosure is nice because it comes with metal screws. There are a lot out there that have plastic screws, and when it's exposed to the heat and the sun over years, they're going to crack, they're going to break. And I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to have to replace the entire enclosure because one or all of the screws broke off. And like I said, I'm bolting this to the house, so I'm expecting this to be permanent. Another thing I'm going to do is spray this down with a UV clear coat to help protect the plastic a little bit more. To get the wires in and out, I've got some of these cable glands. I got 2 11s that'll go from 5 millimeters to 10 millimeters. And these will fit 5 of the solenoid wires at a time. So I've got 5 zones, 5 positive, 5 negatives. They'll go in each, they'll be separated. And then I have a PG9 for the actual control cable. Now what's nice about these is that they screw down with rubber grommets, and they provide a weather resistant seal. Nothing's ever weatherproof. So this will help keep the water out. It'll also help keep critters out, like black widows that we have a lot of here. The last thing I want to do is open this box up and find a nest of widows. Now to keep all the cables together, I've got these. These clips are amazing. They're really neat. They're probably Vago, because they're German, W-A-G-O. And all you do is you put the cable in, and it clamps down. That's it. Now, the set that I have comes with 2, 3s, and 5s. For the most part, that's okay, because I'm going from 1 control cable to 1 solenoid on the positive, except for one that has 2 valves on 1 zone, so that needs a 3. And then for the negatives, I have to get creative, because again, the biggest one I have is 5, and I have a total of 6 cables. So stay with me here. I'm going to take a 5 and a 3 and jumper them together. Should work. It's low voltage. Not too worried about it. Some of the tools that you're going to need on top of all this is a screwdriver. I'm going to have my impact driver out there with me, and some wire strippers. Now these are my fancy wire strippers. I do a lot of electrical work, and so I use these a lot, but you can use the old school ones too. These work just as fine. I have 2 pairs of these. I'm pretty sure one of them was my father's, so I still have that kicking around. And that's about it. Should be pretty simple. So let's go out into the heat and start tackling this. We're back outside. It's about 93 degrees. I got shade. I'm going to try to get this knocked out as quickly as I can. Now, you don't want to go too fast doing this for a couple of reasons. One, it's going to be really easy to make the hole too big, and you don't want to do that. And 2, depending on the case that you get, it may be really cheap plastic and it's going to be super easy to crack. So go slow with the step bit and don't drill into your leg. So a little bit of a problem. I want these on the bottom, definitely, because those are going to come from my valves. But I needed this hole on this side so that I can just go straight in. So we're going to get creative and come in that way instead of buying a whole new box. When you're drilling this, pay attention to where you're putting the flipping hole. Don't do what I did. Measure twice, cut once, yeah? So we're gonna make a small hole for the Tapcon to get in. Now when you're putting this on, just like we made a mistake with the holes, make sure the holes that you want on the bottom are actually on the bottom. So now, we take our level. Okay, that's not going anywhere. Okay, let's get the cable glands installed. Now these are just plastic glands, so finger tight will be okay. You don't want to go too hard because then you end up cracking something and then replacing that. So one of the things I'm doing additionally is writing everything down. So I have 5 zones, so that's Z. I have 4 wires. So one of the zones has 2 wires tied together, and then I have 5 valves. And I'm going to write down which zone to which color goes to which valve, starting left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way, if I have to come out and I can't remember, I can just pop this open and look, and whoever gets this house after me, it's not going to be a mystery to them, because no one likes these mysteries. They're not fun. So, as I'm undoing this wiring mess, I'm going to be writing down which valve goes to which color. Now one of the reasons I'm doing this is, I don't know if you can tell, but this is the actual blue wire and this is its insulation. That's not acceptable. So what I'm going to end up doing is wrapping this up and around to go in, and I want to leave a good 3 inches inside the box. I'm about to cut this wire. Make sure it's unplugged, de-energized, and you're not going to short anything out. And if you're not sure, disconnect the wires on the inside. So I'm about to cut this wire. I have disconnected the wires in the control box. They should only be sending a signal when it's energized or when the sprinklers are running. But just in case, when I cut these wires, all the wires are going to bridge together, and you don't want to short anything out. Now some of the keen-eyed viewers out there probably already noticed that this ain't going to reach. That's okay. I happen to have extra wire. So I'm going to use some 12 gauge wire. I'm going to do lineman splice, and then I'm going to heat shrink it using marine heat shrink tubing. It's got an adhesive inside which also helps keep out water. Now I could solder this, I'm not going to. I've already lost all my shade, and it's not getting any cooler out here. I'm just going to cut off a couple links. I need one for positive and one for negative on valve 1 and 2. Valve 3, 4, and 5 will fit. What I am going to do is I'm going to end up cutting some of this off, because this was on a wire nut, so it's all twisted and mangled and stuff. I ended up cutting it and getting a fresh strip off. You know, before you start connecting wires, it's best to get the heat shrink on. So I've got 2 different gauges of wire. I've got 12 gauge that I'm connecting and 14 gauge off the valves. Now this is a really good fit over both, so I don't need the bigger piece. I'm going to leave it on this one for now, just so I don't have to undo everything. So I got 1 and 2 done. 3 is red. 3's in. All right, so for grounding, it's going to get creative. I have 6 wires that need to go in, and they only come in 5x. So what I'm going to end up doing is creating a short jumper, and that's just going to jump between a 5 and a 3. So I'll have the white wire coming in to the 5, 3 of the pumps, 1, 2, and 3, and then a jumper to the 2x, and then 4 and 5 will be on the 2x, and it'll all be grounded together. Again, this is low voltage, so this isn't that dangerous. After all, it was all just wire nutted together to begin with, and I was using indoor wire nuts outside, so I am not the least bit concerned about this, the Ginger's wiring plan. All right, so now we need to do the negatives. Everything is wired up. It is all through the glands. Now it's time to test it. So give me a second and I'll be right back. Okay, everything works. I'm going to button this up pretty quickly. Just going to stuff the wires in and put the cap on. I am going to spray this down with some clear spray. That's the ultraviolet protection. I don't need this box being disintegrated in the sun within a couple of years, because the sun here is really harsh. And then we'll go inside and wrap this up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that was fun. I was able to get it done before I got to 100. It's only 99 out there in the shade. Thank goodness I put the pop-up up. I don't do well in the sun, and it would have been a lot hotter. So, as you can see, it's fairly simple. It really bothered me when I was working on replacing the valves, and it was all just indoor wire nuts, and it just, no, I don't like that. One word of warning: if you're going to use the Vago clamp system, make sure you get the genuine Vago, W-A-G-O. There are a lot of imitations out there, and they are cheap by every definition of the word. Do not use them. Spend the extra money, get the Vago clips. These work really, really well. They went from 18 gauge to 12 gauge with ease, and they connected everything up. All the ground connected just fine, even though it was a little gingery. I hope you learned something. I hope this inspired you to clean up some wiring projects that you have lying around that just, they don't look great. Yeah, it works, but do you want to be the person that works on that next? Do you want to pass it on to someone else? I couldn't do that. And it was fairly cheap. It was not a very expensive box. Like I said, it didn't have an inside grommet, but it does do really good waterproofing. The glands weren't super expensive, even for the entire pack. I did buy a large pack because I didn't know which size I was going to need. And the Vago, yeah, they're 30 bucks for that little pack, but it's worth it. And I can use them in other projects. Thank you for watching. This has been a Ginger Can. My name is Brian, and we made the irrigation wiring look way better than it used to. Here's a before and after. So that's all I got for you today. If you enjoyed this, please give me that thumbs up, give me that like, show YouTube that this is something worth watching. If you have projects, wiring projects or what have you, and you have questions, put some comments down below. Me or someone can probably get you pointed in a better direction. It may not be the right direction, but it'll be a better direction. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I try to get videos up weekly. I've done pretty good since I've made my comeback and getting videos up. Next week, it's going to be over 110, 115 outside. I'm not doing any projects outside. We'll talk about my roof riding experience and what I did and how I dealt with that situation. Fortunately, it was just one and it's gone. So look for that next week. It'll just be me talking about what I did and some videos of the actual rodent that I was able to capture. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe now so that you get that notification. I'm gonna go hose off or something, maybe sit in a tub of ice and cool off a bit. I'll catch you all in the next video.